But what this first one here, palm leg, anterior single leg, is referring to is open diamond stance right outside from the knee. I sort of rock the leg in. I'm palming, I have one hand at the IT band, just superior to the knee, one hand just above the lateral malleolus. You're going to feel like you're going to want to sit the arms straight in front of you. But if you do that, by the time you get all the way to the top, you're really off your side. So my center is in line with their knee. I start with just a couple bamboo rocks side to side. And then my mother hand is constantly changing. So here my left hand is the mother as my right hand moves up. Now my right hand is the mother, and the left hand steps up. The mother's constantly changing. This can take a little bit of practice in order to get your rationing right.
What movement did you call it? The bamboo glide?
This is bamboo rock.
Bamboo.
I like to also, when I get up to the top here at the greater trochanter, as I push in, I feel that the leg wants to pull in. And so this is almost, I'm almost doing that sort of qigong sort of practice with her leg. I'm only resisting slightly. I'm overlapping my pressures, releasing the pressure here as I push in here, and I push back here as I softly release that.
How do you feel good? Amazing.
Okay. And I just walk this back. I spoke about the rationing because when I first started this palming of the legs, like sometimes I'll get up to the knee and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm only halfway up the thigh. You know, and it's like, okay, well, just keep going up the thigh, you know, make it work. So the biggest thing is that you sort of just keep moving, you know. This rhythmic rocking gets to be very hypnotic for the client. Their body really tends to give in a lot more than if we were to just, you know, like poking at it. So that's what a palming of the leg is. I did that little bits at a time. If I were to do 3 of them, it would look. You know, and actually, there is a little difference too, depending on, excuse me, there's a little difference on which hand goes first. If I'm palming, I tend to want to lead, move my lead hand first, and then catch up. Lead and catch up. It has a very different feel to it energetically versus if I were to like lead with my backhand and then skip forward. It almost feels like claustrophobic. It feels really like jamming up. It feels
Stopping energy.
yeah, it does. It does really sort of stop energy that way. So try to think of, and that's why when I got to the top, I sort of like did an extra rock and then I started back down here, you know. So it doesn't have to keep moving. You want to keep moving. The placement doesn't have to keep moving. So that's what palming the leg looks like. Metta sweep, there's the second one. Hip rotation, I tend to do a metta sweep to pick up the leg and I step in. This one might be different for women. The foot comes into my sternum. So you could put a pillow or a bolster maybe across, sort of between your breasts or so with the foot on the bolster. And here's my whirlpool rock. So I am sort of stretching through her ankle, but really what this is doing is a hip.
What is this called?
Hip rotation. And I'll do this in both directions. Make sure I tend to, sorry?
With the whirlpool rock?
Mm-hmm. I tend to like to have a constant connection of the foot against my sternum. I'm pushing with my body forward as I roll this across. I lean back and I'm pulling that foot into my chest. So, shin sit is the next one. I'll go into a little different, there's one more little tip that I'll put in here too. If I were just doing thumbing, I might lay this leg across me. I call this a loaf. Anytime that I'm draping them across over the top of my hips, I call this a loaf. I call this a double loaf versus a single loaf. So this motion can also be a little bit of a traction of the hips just by doing this. The shin sit though is here. I want to make sure that I'm below her knee, and
That's weird.
does that feel okay?
Yeah.
Cool. And the other thing I want to make sure that I'm doing is really being passive. If I'm trying to hold myself up and trying to like pretend like I'm not crushing her, I'm going to crush her. Versus if I just sort of relax and soften into this. A way in order to decrease the pressure is take your hands onto your thighs and push up onto your thighs. But otherwise, I want to sit here for about a minute. Real thin people, I would do maybe like 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Generally what I think of is as I feel my feet sort of starting to become numb, hers are doing the same thing. And when I come out of this, I come out quickly but smoothly. So let's go another.
Yeah.
Come up. And I just let it hang. She should almost feel the blood rushing back into her feet. It's kind of a blood stop.
Yeah.
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 Yes, exactly. So that is. So, and I just like paddle my feet in order to bring the motion back into her leg. How's that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Cool. And what's the next one? Okay. So from there, I guess I come into this sort of double loaf. And the next one is helicopter on the list. Helicopter, I sort of take my hand, I dive in between my legs in order to collect underneath her knee. And now her knee pit is in my forearm. And I'm using this whirlpool rock again. It's sort of half kneeling and half high kneel. Half diamond, half high kneel. So this is a helicopter. A lot of times you'll find people that just like bonk, they run into a wall with their leg. Bonk. Or the other way around. They'll come across, but they won't open. So if that happens, I will lift up and I'll do tight circles here in order to really help release that and then come back in. Here's a transition move. A little weird, hard to type out how this works, but I go from this diamond pose and I spiral around in the same direction as the leg is moving up to a warrior pose. My hand that's underneath her leg is coming out. This is a little spiral. So, okay, let's see what it looks like. So I spiral this around, I push this around to here.
Ah, graceful. Fancy.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of like a wax on with the hand. So I'll show you, I'm going to show you on the other side too. So, sorry we didn't warm this hip up.
Oh, it's funny. There's going to be popping.
Whoop. Sorry. Let's do that one more time.